that in. When I want to flatten or cut, I'm going to use the edge. That's cool, Hyper. Yeah, sorry about the interrupts today, guys. We had like a couple days before the con with nothing, like no problems whatsoever. I'm just like I'm not convinced it's my computer, but it could easily be Twitch, but Man, I don't want to spend the money now, but I'll go in computer again. Sadly the computer that I tried to order from HP, they screwed up, so I'm like grr. So I'm not ordering from HP. I'm going to go back to that site that I found the first time. Because HP did not impress me. This is not the first time they have not impressed me. I have very little leeway for them. There we go. Pat, 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 pat. Alright, so we've got those ear feathers flattened out. There we go. There we go, there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna curve this one a little, I think, so that it leads into that next one better. Oh yeah, Kiki, because she was dog sat. Hey there, Bull. 48. Whoa, quadruple sub-anniversary. Quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary. Happy quadruple sub-anniversary. There you are. Kiki's like... Yeah, I mean, Keekster, she was just a handful at the con, that's all. And David and I can't do anything when Kiki, we're trying to watch Kiki. Because it's too hot to just... Like, if it was, like, a normal time of year where it was, like, 60s, she could sit in the car while we went into a restaurant. She's perfectly happy doing that. She likes the car when it's just, like, sitting still and she's got her space. But yeah, when you've got, 96, 98 degrees, you can't leave your dog in the car. You've got to find another solution. So it was really nice that my nice Valandar. So it was really nice that my ex was willing to take her, and he enjoyed having a dog in the house again, and she was happy to have a yard to traipse around in and catch frizzles. That was the first thing we did when we got home. It's like I got her right out of the car, put her in the backyard, and we played frisbee. And then we had to go out again and play frisbee because she just had too much pent up energy after 12 hours of driving. Pardon me while I'm scraping the green off of. There was a little bit of green still stuck on my finger. I'm scraping it off before it cures. But yes, so there we go. So we got a really nice. Did a little bit of gouging here on the top of the brow to suggest bits of stone as well. You can see that pattern texture. Another thing I can do is to grab something really fine and put some cracks in, or I can use this tool and try to do that with the edge, which is totally doable because it's quite fine. So make a little bit of cracks. So I want a tiny version of this. Do a little bit of a crack there. Just add a little bit of extra detailing on these little ears. There, that's good. I can also just paint plastic surgery, that sort of thing, like, and just paint it. Thank you. Twisted on my yats. And remember the forehead here, I'm probably going to put some sort of lit like brazier or something like that on, so we need to preserve that. But I'm going to actually do that blocking in now. I don't really want to gouge the other side here until I can gouge a little bit. Need to be careful though. I need to make it a little bit more carve. I need to not mess up the other side while I do this. But the eye is quite close to the top of the head, so I do need this to move up a little bit. And since it's just the armature, that's looking better. Since it's just the armature, I can be rough with it, and it's going to be fine. So we've got this just cutting away. That big shelf of cosplay. There it is. Yeah, okay. So this one a little low, so I'll fill that in. But now this part is very much in line with the eye on this side. So I feel like I've got better placement there for when I green over this. So let's see if we can do the top of the head. This is cosplay, I mentioned, Twisted Oma. It's the stuff that CNOT uses for his sculpting, his big custom sculpts that he uses on his channel. And I was looking for an alternative to Sculpey that didn't have a ton of fumes when you went to bake it. So I decided to order some. So I did the basic head shape with that to try it out. And because when you're doing a bulky shape, it's easier to do in those kind of clays. I also need to cut this part off here to even it out with the other side. So now I'm being a little bit more selective. Now that I have a result I really like on the other side, and there, that's good. So you can see that the there and there are now on the same level. And I think this brow will end up being just about right, and the eye is going to be positioned right, so that's good. That's good. All right, we'll try not to. We'll not take any more chances with that side. We'll do the top of the head, and then we'll just refine a little bit. It's plasticky. It's like a rubbery, plasticky kind of feel. Just don't. But Sculpey is the same way. Sculpey and the softer Fimos, those are all the same way. Once you bake them, they're easy to carve and sand. Some of them are better to carve. Some of the harder ones are easier to sand, but. I might try to do some cosplay green mixes, since you can do that with like Fimo and Sculpey. The heat of the green curing will actually cure the oven baked clay as well. You just have to use a very small amount. There we go. I'm just going to grab that. Boop. Yeah, right. This is where I leave fingerprints all over everything. Me too. I've gotten better about it over time. I've learned that. Scooch, scooch, scooch. Come on, scooch up there. Scooch up there, you little piece of green. There you go. Get in position. There you are. Sit. Stay. Boop, 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 boop. Now, here I want to use my big heavy tool, I think. So I need this to not be very heavy of a skin. I need to really thin it down. No, the cosplay cannot be used without baking. You must bake it. That's why I'm not using it for the rest of this Twisted Oma. The only way you can use it without baking would be if I mixed a little bit of it into this green, but I would be getting I would just get a kind of the mutant child. Like, I would get green stuff with a few of the characteristics of the cosplay. Uh-oh, got some water underneath it. It figures. 1 second while I grab a Kleenex. But yeah, no, any of the things that act really like clay must be must be baked. The epoxy putties like this and Aves and whatever other brand I'm forgetting that I shouldn't be, are the non-baking, but they're a little harder. There's a learning curve to learn. Yeah, I got some water underneath. Easy to do. Easy to do with the big tool. Yeah, it's still a little bit. Still going to be a little bit annoying. That's all right, though. I'll at least get some of this. But no. So whenever I need a bulky thing, also the cosplay is cheaper than the green. All right, get over here, you thing. Yeah, there's just a lot of water. But yeah, cosplay and Sculpey are cheaper. Like the bulk. I'm really annoyed at this. Just gonna pull it off. Like overall cheaper per volume than the green stuff, so it's easier to make big bulky undershapes for that. I didn't want to make making the eagle head out of green would have been a pain in the butt because green is so squishy. You wouldn't have been able to get a resilient shape. So I'm just drying off my area and letting it dry a bit. Hey, Zachariah. So I would tend to use Sculpey or Fimo or Cosclay. Any of the above. Though I like Super Sculpey better than regular Sculpey. And I don't use Sculpey at all anymore because the fumes. I don't like the baking fumes. Cosclay I was able to bake without having any weird fume smelling stuff going on, which I liked. There we go. Much drier. Boop, boop, boop. Let's try this again. Let's try this again, little griffin head. I know. You're very, very stubborn. Very stubborn. You're as bad as Kiki. Hold on. It's being recalcitrant. But it's like, I mean, you don't need any of them unless you're going to start doing shapes like this. Like, obviously, there we go. No water underneath. Like, I like them for basing sometimes, but cork is far more... Cork is less demanding, and cork lets you get the stone shapes pretty much effortlessly. Whereas with all the clays, you have to sculpt those shapes yourself, right? These rock shapes that cork naturally makes. So, before you run out and buy a bunch of polymer clays, you know, ask yourself, because I'm all about less hoarding and miniature painting. I know that's totally against the core of our hobby, but if you don't need it, like if you're not going to do this sort of thing, then you don't need it probably. If you have cork. Because it's really when you're going to do, like, sculpting. Or making, yeah, then you can use that clay for an armature or to bulk out an area. Like, there are bases. Like, I showed you guys kind of this bulked out, really raw form base that I did a long time ago with a dead tree. Now, if I were to use this, I would be taking green stuff and building out. I would probably cut and make some bigger cuts, you know, figure out where my miniature is going to stand, or here. Then I would use green stuff to refine this base and make it look really cool. But because the clay is so much easier to work, especially if you're used to playing with clay, you know, from when you were a kid or if you took an art class or whatever, it's easier to create my shapes, and then I do green work for the details. So for me, and doing this in green would be punishing. It would take forever because it takes so long for the green to cure, and you have to wait for this to cure and then do another layer and another layer and another layer, and it would cost a lot of money because this is a lot of green and it just wouldn't work very well. So unless you're using it as a putty catcher, like if you're doing a putty catcher, then doing that kind of base with your leftover green stuff makes sense because otherwise you're going to be throwing off the green. So. But yeah, if you're going to start doing sculpting and basing, which it is one of the easier things. Like if you're trying to learn sculpting, learning sculpting for basing is a good way to challenge yourself and to learn without having the pressure of actually trying to sculpt a figure. Because you learn how to manipulate the green. So now we're going to bring in kind of a rough, stony texture on the top of the head. To hoard or not to hoard, yeah. No, I wouldn't do a whole backdrop on this, Pendrake. If you were, the thing is, Pendrake, that if you're going to do that, you're planning it from the beginning. Like I planned to do the griffin face coming out from, or the eagle coming out from here. So I left a gap for it. If you're going to do a cliff face, you would have designed this base very differently. It's not something like that. Plus, then you don't want to you'd lose all this. If you did a cliff face, you wouldn't be able to really see the back anymore. So if you're going to do freehand on here, or you did this freehand, you'd lose all this with a cliff face coming up behind. You wouldn't be able, nobody would see it, because the cliff face would be in the way. But yeah, so that sort of thing, you really want to decide on that early on so that you can make your painting decisions based on it. If you're going to put a backdrop on a piece, that's a great time to make a very strong directional front light or side light, because you don't have to worry so much about what it's going to look like on the back, because nobody will see it. There's a cliff face there. So that's just something. Okay, now I've got this tamped down and spread out. Now I can bring in my smaller sculpting tools and futz. Back to the Julie tool. Yeah, any backdrop does, Richard. Any backdrop saves you that. Because nobody will see it, so. So now, while I still have some workability in this green, is when I want to I usually look at the texture that I've gotten just randomly from the tool, and then I try to exaggerate that, because it is random. Like you haven't tried to do that texture, it's just what you've ended up with. And here is where I'm going to take the ridge and make the top of this ear. There. So yeah, when you have sculpted something and you found that you've left a random texture, if you want it to look natural, then doubling down on that texture is an easy way to do that, because you've already set it up. So now you just need to accentuate all of these random tool strikes so that they look more like rocks. It looks more like stone, right? So all of these little random tool marks, I'm just going to start making more accentuated. And it's going to end up looking like a natural stone, because I'm not like trying to create a stone effect with artistry. I'm just using a texture that already exists. Yeah, Arcane, exactly. Arcane Void. Yeah, moving several times really, if you're making a cliff face or a menhir, I'd actually might use plaster of Paris instead, Pendrake. It's funny, but when you're creating scenery stuff, there's definitely this like hierarchy of materials that you use as you get bigger and bigger forms. Right up to the point where you're using like foam, styrofoam to create the core, and then you're adding onto that with plaster or stuff that's like plaster. There's a couple different products that I own for doing that big stuff. So you see, we're just accentuating the markings that I already had. We're probably going to put, hey, Hyper, thanks for that resub, 31 months. Awesome. Yeah, cork bark is good for cliff faces. Anything that gives you that natural... And the reason I say that is you want something more lightweight, Pendrake, than the cosclay or these other polymer clays. Because when you get a very large amount of it, it does get heavier, right? So weight is a factor in like controlling potential breakability and just easier to move and manipulate if you're going to take it to a show, stuff like that. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. So I've got kind of this cool stone texture going on here. Yeah, I mean, remember butts. That's okay. Yeah, painter caulk for durability. Yep. Yeah, me moving meant that my boxes of Doom shrunk, but I still have probably at least 5 boxes of minis. But I came out of Reapercon determined to paint more, guys. Determined. Absolutely determined. Plus, I think I'm kind of done with Diablo. Like, I think I've unless I find like a build that I'm really interested in doing for the next one. I tried my werewolf build this time. I had my bear build, but I'm just not, I don't think I'm going to play. I did see that Hero Mastery got put in finally for Overwatch, so I'm super excited to try that. But that's not something where I'm going to play every day and level a character from 0 to, 70 or whatever. But I really want to paint more. I want to get more crap done. I have so many gorgeous models. I come out of Reapercon every year having seen, other people painting miniatures for the show that I own and just haven't painted and that I want to paint. And it's like, I get so, like, fired up, determined to go, damn it, I could paint that, and I've got such a cool idea for it. I need to do it. Oh, nice, Arcane. That's great. Yeah, weight is it's not so much that, Pendrake, but a lot of us who work on a big project like that, we're going to want to bring it to a con. So then you've got the transportation, and the heavier something is, the more likely if it falls, something's going to snap, because the weight of the piece is going to act against it, sadly. I might end up doing a little bit more on top of that ear, but for now, I think I'm going to angle it. But yeah, we're getting this skinned over really nicely. So, and I think I'll bring the brow ridges up a little bit more and make them floofier, but that's after this cures. So I think I am going to redo a little bit more on this. Still very happy with the profile on this side. Very, very happy. And remember, if we do need to carve still after it cures, green is very carvable. So, and we'll just make this fit in. But yeah, but that's the reason, like, because a lot of people, they make this big diorama, they want to bring it to Reapercon to show everybody, right? But the other thing I wanted to say about the big diorama idea about this is, remember, and I told several people this at the show, I always give this feedback every year, somebody goes for this massive diorama, and the problem with dioramas is that the bigger you make it, the more of that area you need to paint to the top level. So many people will just put a group of minis on this gigantic base that's just kind of phoned in, and it could be so much cooler. So the advice we always give is that if you are doing a diorama, make it as small as you possibly can and still tell the story. Remember, it's about the story, not the size of the diorama. There was a really cool one this year that we gave feedback on where it was, I think, a bunch of like monsters or adventurers like breaking into a tavern, and there was a tavern scene and all this stuff, but it ended up being too big and too distracting. So you didn't even understand the story at first because there was too much to look at. You were like, well, where is the story? What is the story here? And then you finally realize that it's like this piece, but that's just one small piece on the right side of the diorama. And if you had just cut off, like cut out, like 2/3 of the diorama, just sawed it right off and just done the scene where they're breaking through the wall, it would have been a better diorama. And you'd have less to paint, and you would have been able to do a better job. Does that make sense? Favorite way to display your favorite minis? Well, actually, David and I have cases. We have the IKEA cases. Yeah. Yeah, the cases are nice just because they keep the cats and other animals away. For the most part, Kiki likes to make David have a heart attack by pawing at the black or the glass case in our hobby room. But that case doesn't have any actual finished minis, and for some reason she doesn't do the same thing to the cases full of like beautiful finished minis in our main room. So like I think she's just being a snot because she's a puppy. All right, so this is a decent start. We'll fill out the ear. We'll give it more of a fringy brow, I think. A little fringe coming off the top of the brow of feathers. I'm pretty happy with the texture on this other side. My green is getting really stiff now, so it's pretty much done. And I'm just trying to randomize a little bit of texture here so that it goes into the rocks forms here. We'll do more ears. I've got a good rock form here. Pretty happy with this. Putting a few cuts in there. And then we'll have to scan the other side so that it looks as nice as the first side. But we can see the before and after. So now you guys see what I was aiming for all this time when it looked like total butt. And this is... Oh yeah, new cases for awards. Yeah, that's always what, when we paint for Golden Demon or something, it's always what really experienced people told me way back in the beginning when I was just a baby painter, is that pointing out that if you're going to do a unit, do the minimum number of models, because you have to paint everything to your highest standard, right? Whether that's an intermediate standard or a really high standard like I can do. So the fewer things you have in it, the better you're going to be able to paint all of them. So don't do the giant diorama. Figure out what your story is in that giant diorama and figure out how much can I shrink that to just show that story and to really focus on it while still giving a feel for the environment. Yeah, no. Yeah, when you've got all that space, what that does to the human eye is boring. That's what it says to any viewer. Is because the way we interpret shapes, Richard, is actually like a human thing. It's why we like diagonal lines and why diagonal lines are exciting in paintings, but just horizontal lines are really calming and boring. So when you've got that giant base, it's that horizontal line that just a few figures are in it, it's boring. It's calming and boring. So if you shrink that down and maybe you even put it on a slant or you introduce some diagonal forms, suddenly it's exciting. And that's just the way that our brains work. And so that's why the giant diorama with just a few figures is just not very effective. Like, you always ask yourself, because the point of a diorama is to set a scene, you're trying to illustrate an exciting scene, right? A moment. Otherwise, why would you do the diorama? So what's the fewest things I need here? Who's the real focal point of this? How many supporting casts does that person or thing need? And how much area do I need to show the scenery? I certainly don't need this. I don't probably even need this. I might be closer to this. Yeah. Well, yeah. And a lot of people will just do that. They'll phone in the landscape because they'll get to it and they'll be like, wow, this is boring. And it's like, if you're thinking that, so remember this, in any piece of art, this is true of books, of writing, and it is true of miniatures, dioramas, and it's true even of single figures to a point. If there's any point during the process where you're like, wow, this is boring, if you think so, your reader/viewer/audience are also going to think so. Chances are. So dial down the boring, get rid of the boring. Ask yourself, what could I do that would get rid of the boring here? And it might be like, well, I need to make my diorama half the size. Or more or less. I'm not gonna mix more green stuff now. We're gonna wrap it. I'm very happy. And I was gonna maybe throw something on my putty catcher, but I don't know. It's already 10 after, so I think this is just dead green stuff. So we have a glob left over. Dead green stuff goes in the trash can. But I thought I'd chat a little bit because this is our first stream back. So I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow, I think, guys. I want to work on I might work on some new stuff. Some Adventure Cats or some Moonlight Minis. Because I have some Moonlight Minis I really want to paint. I've got my putty catcher, Bryce. I really need to put a mini on this. Like, I need to figure out... Wait! Hold on. Hold that thought, guys. I think I have the mini. Holy crap, I have the mini! As of Reapercon! Guys! Oh, I bet it'll work! Oh, I might have to extend some rocks. No, this is even better! Don't you love it, Bryce? Don't you love it when you got... No. Oh, little pumpkins, yeah. It's mushrooms and pumpkins. Are you ready? Are you ready for the cute? These sold out at the show so fast. Ta-da! What do you think? Here's the promo I promised. I forget her name. Who owns Kana? Advertising. With a little bit of work. Oh yeah. Looky there, guys. Look who works for the putty catcher. Yay! I was waiting for the right figure. I do have to level this part out just a little bit. So these sold out, like, by Friday, I think. I think I got the last one. But I think if we put the one paw on the lump there, and we just fill out a little bit under that hind paw, then we've got, and it's great. It's actually a great base, because what it does is it puts the mini, and remember how I just talked about diagonal angles? So what it does is put the model at an angle. You see it? It tilts it upward. It makes it look more alert. It adds to its attitude, right? And you can see the ground is kind of, so we're tilting it, so it's got a little bit of a tilt that way. But it's still level enough, and it works with the way the model is turning, right? It's on there, and it's turning the other way, so it's bracing with its back foot and pushing off with its front. It works great. And then I just need to, essentially then, what I need to do is turn it and see, is it interesting from all angles? I'll need to put some more, maybe a little Easter egg up here, some sort of little critter or something. But yeah, I think it's going to work. Yeah, it does work. So I always check with a bigger diorama or bigger model, turn it from different angles, and make sure that it still looks good compositionally. And if it does, then you're rocking. I'm so thrilled. I actually can use my putty catcher. Yeah, so this is happy. I'm really happy. And that means that I should work on the owlbear on my stream tomorrow, right? So I should prep it and prime it. I have some really cool colors I want to use on it. But yeah, so I'll need a little bit of putty work just to make it perfect on the base. But isn't it the cutest owlbear? And what I really like about these, all of the Adventure Cat stuff is like this, but see how simple it is? So it's very simple. But what that means, if you're Anne, that means you have a lot of room to texture and to paint on, like, feather markings and stuff. Like, and for me, so you can paint it very simply, and it's going to look good, because it is a very nice model. But at the same time, if you want to do textures, you've got the room to do textures. So, yes, Quantum Mini is also on Etsy and My Mini Factory, so there you go. You can get your very own owlbear. But yeah, these sold out at the show. Like, when I grabbed that last one, she's like, oh yeah, they're gone now. Like, we didn't bring enough of them. But I love, I love owlbears. I've got my little guy back here. This guy. Rawr. So, he's my little mascot. So everybody loves owlbears. Let's face it. So yeah, so I can finally use my putty catcher, and I'm thrilled. Thrilled! So I just need to decide what kind of other base stuff I might want to put on here. Obviously, I'll be doing a lot of flocking and some grass and stuff like that. But I'll have to figure it out as I go and build up that base, and we can do it. We can do it! Yes! So I'm happy, and we will make a very pretty owlbear. I just love how the mane is so soft too, and that'll be kind of cool because I can make some little feather shapes up here and have them blend into more of a mane in the freehand there. So yeah, I'm excited. I really, really love this figure. It's just so nice. So there we go, guys. That's what we'll do this weekend. There we are, and here is what we accomplished on stream today. We actually made our griffin head look really cool. So I'm pretty happy. I've already got a concept for colors to use on this one in Patterns Twisted Oma, but thank you. Like, that's when it's time for Anne to paint a model, is when I've got that strong concept right out the gate. So yeah, so we've got our Griffin statue that we're coming around to. We just have probably one more session of green work. Then I have to make the little blip brazier, flaming brazier, so I can have that be on the top, the pinnacle of rock. Like, she's just lit the signal fire and all that kind of thing. So we're doing a lot of basing on this. You guys know that sometimes I just don't feel like the basing. And sometimes I decide, yes, let's do the basing. So this model is turning into quite the basing essay, but we haven't done this before. So at least we are doing new things. We're always doing new things. It's lovely. It's lovely. And I really like it. It's cool. So yeah, there we go. That's what we did. And then I will see you, hopefully, we'll see you guys on the Saturday stream tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. And I will be like sacrificing my Overwatch League finals, while watching, and instead spending time with you guys because I want to paint. So yes, thank you. Thanks, Turgeon. It's good to see you again too. Thank you very much, everybody. And no idea, Reaperland. But yes, look for the disembodied beard at 3 p.m. Central today. Okay. Have a good one. Thank you for hurting the cats. Quindy, congratulations again on getting inducted into the Reaper Hall of Fame. You definitely deserved it. And I hope that my present to you is sitting nicely on a shelf. For those who didn't know, I actually gave the Necromancer to Quindy at the con. So I was so happy that you were actually coming to Reapercon, Quindy, when I'm like, you're coming? Good! Because I didn't want to give it to you, and I didn't want to mail it. So it was like, oh, safe from Ingrid. Okay. Excellent. All right, guys, I will see you on a Monday or tomorrow on my own stream on twitch.tv/paintingbig. All right, be there, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.